and I was happy to be part of the problem if there is one.
I think it's just an issue that we should be talking about.
Disney's downfall has a plot twist bigger than any Marvel crossover. The Avengers just gave Disney the ultimate thanks, but no thanks, and signed a $750 million mega deal with Apple. But it's how they ditched Disney for Apple that will surprise you. The Avengers abandoned Disney. Disney is dead. But how did we get here? What drove the original Avengers to defect from the House of Mouse and forge a new empire with Apple? And why is Bob Iger absolutely terrified behind closed doors? We'll reveal the shocking clause in the Apple contract that's unlike anything Disney ever offered. We'll also show you the exact moment when Chris Evans first realized he didn't owe Disney anything anymore. But first, let's get one thing straight. This isn't just a bad week for Disney. This is the beginning of the end. For over a decade, Disney was Hollywood. From Iron Man in 2008 to Endgame in 2019, the Marvel Cinematic Universe didn't just dominate the box office, it reshaped global pop culture. Disney raked in billions off the backs of its actors. But behind the scenes, the cracks were already showing. Chris Evans, the face of Captain America, the walking moral compass of the MCU, almost didn't sign the contract in the first place.
And you were initially reluctant to be Captain America, though.
Yeah, I was scared. Because at first it was some 9-picture contract, and there are parts of me that have a little bit of social anxiety with this industry, and doing movies one at a time, if all of a sudden you decide you don't want to do them anymore, you're afforded the opportunity to take a step back and recalibrate. When you have a giant contract, if all of a sudden you're not responding well, too bad. You got to suit up again.
That's not creative freedom. That's indentured servitude disguised as a superhero contract. So when Apple came to the table in early 2025 with a $750 million offer, not just for acting, but for executive producing, creative direction, and full IP collaboration, it wasn't just a better deal. It was liberation. And the reaction from the cast? Ecstatic. Scarlett Johansson, who's already had legal beef with Disney over streaming royalties, was apparently the first one to say yes. Chris Hemsworth followed, then Paul Rudd, and finally, Robert Downey Jr., the man whose Iron Man launched the MCU, and who once joked that Marvel should erect a shrine to him, finally walked away from the temple.
If you'd asked me in 2008, 9, 10 how I felt about it, I would say that I was the Atlas of the Marvel Universe. I was holding it up.
But now, that burden is over. Because Apple didn't just offer him a fat paycheck. They offered him something Marvel never could, control. But here's the twist. This isn't a sudden decision. The Avengers cast has been quietly drifting away from Disney for years. In interviews, you can hear the burnout, the frustration, the subtle jabs. Listen to how Scarlett Johansson described her experience of playing Black Widow over time.
Sign up to be that character, though. Do you have to sign away your life to a certain point because you have to be available for all the other,
At that time, I signed away a lot of time. And then later on, I was able to kind of renegotiate my time, and which worked out, I think, certainly in my favor, but also in Marvel's favor, because they kind of prioritize the work that they do.
And look, this kind of over-control, it's not just happening to the talent. Behind the scenes, Disney has been scrambling to consolidate and cut costs just to stay afloat. Bob Iger's big comeback strategy has been to bundle Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus into one platform. Why? Because the streaming business lost $4 billion the year before he returned.
Well, let me start, David, by saying that this is a business, our streaming business, that lost $5 billion in the year prior to my coming back, and we're going to earn over $1 billion this year. So $4 billion in the year prior to my coming back. We're going to earn over $1 billion this year. So we've got a $5 billion turnaround.
But let's be real. That turnaround is just smoke and mirrors. Because while Disney was bleeding money, Apple was building its war chest. And now the war is here, and it didn't happen overnight. In the coming parts of this video, we're going to reveal exactly how Disney's empire began collapsing from the inside, long before the Apple deal. We'll show you the lawsuits, the talent disputes, the internal panic at Pixar and Lucasfilm, and the boardroom decisions that backfired so hard they make Bob Chapek's era look stable. And most shockingly, we'll reveal a Disney whistleblower's memo that predicted all of this, and how executives ignored it. Disney thought it was too big to fail, but the Avengers, they knew better, and they were already planning their escape. But first, let's rewind the clock. Back in the early 2010s, the MCU was on fire. Iron Man, Thor, Captain America. Each release turned into a cultural event. But with every billion-dollar box office hit, there was one silent cost: the people behind the masks. These weren't just actors in tights. They were human beings, often bound to multi-film contracts with little room for artistic autonomy or personal freedom. Chris Hemsworth, for example, signed a 6-picture deal right out of the gate, with no idea if the whole experiment would work.
It was, pitched as this big thing, but no one really knew if it was going to work or whether I was going to be fired or they were going to do another one or we were going to do Avengers and so on and so forth. But, about the time Avengers 1 came out, and that press tour in particular, I remember thinking, oh, wow, this is something that could go on for a long, long time.
It did go on for a long time, but it also wore them down. They gave everything, years of their lives, intense physical transformations, brand restrictions, and endless global press tours. And Robert Downey Jr., he'd spent years hinting that his time with Disney was over. But listen to what he said when he was asked about Scorsese's now famous jab that Marvel films weren't cinema.
And by the way, there's a lot to be said for how these genre movies, and I was happy to be part of the problem.
Part of the problem. Think about that. The man who defined the MCU, subtly admitting, we might have ruined something. That's not a glowing review. That's a red flag. So when Apple, with its deep pockets and even deeper desire to become a legitimate cinematic power, approached the cast, the timing was perfect. Make no mistake, Apple didn't just want content. They wanted legitimacy. And there's no better way to get it than stealing Disney's golden children. Here's what we know about the Apple deal. It's a $750 million, multi-project contract, split across multiple core Avengers actors. Apple will finance, produce, and stream the projects exclusively on Apple TV+, making them flagship properties for its expanding film division. Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson will also serve as executive producers, with reported first-look rights on future spin-offs. And Robert Downey Jr., he's allegedly negotiating profit participation, a stake in the back-end and IP influence. Compare that to Disney, which often locks actors into flat-fee deals, limits back-end sharing, and micromanages every creative decision down to what costume an actor can wear on press tours. And so, here we are. Disney is in panic mode. They've lost Pixar's dominance, Lucasfilm's credibility, and now the only thing keeping their film division culturally relevant is slipping away. Meanwhile, Apple has built a dream team. And if you think that's all, well, that's only half the story. Wait until you learn about the other half. How Disney lost the empire it built. While the Avengers were quietly walking out the front door, Disney's real collapse was happening inside the castle. Because this isn't just about a $750 million talent exodus. This is the story of a company so blinded by its own ego, so addicted to the illusion of invincibility, that it ignored every warning sign. And by the time it noticed the ship was sinking, it was already underwater. In this part of the expose, we're taking you behind the scenes, inside the boardrooms, into the heart of Disney's self-destruction. We'll show you the Pixar implosion that executives tried to spin as creative evolution, the streaming war bloodbath that led to a $4 billion loss in 1 year, the Bob Chapek versus Bob Iger power struggle that tore the company in half, and how the Avengers stars saw it all coming and made their escape plan years ago. Let's start with one number, $4 billion. That's how much money Disney's streaming business lost in a single year, just before Bob Iger came back. Except, it's not a turnaround. It's a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. Disney's obsession with chasing Netflix made them dump billions into content no one wanted. Their obsession has been so clear that even Robert Downey has his comments about it.
And by the way, when you come in like a stomping beast and you eliminate the competition in such a demonstrative way.
They greenlit show after show after show, from Marvel spin-offs like Miss Marvel to Star Wars projects like Andor, Obi-Wan, and the Book of Boba Fett. And while some of it was critically decent, almost none of it moved the needle. Their subscriber count plateaued, their churn rate skyrocketed, and internally, according to multiple sources, there was a feeling of chaos. This wasn't the Disney that carefully planned its way from The Little Mermaid to The Lion King to Frozen. This was a content mill, desperate to stay relevant, and worse, they burned through their best teams to do it. Again, let's talk about Pixar. Once the gold standard in animated storytelling, Pixar has been reduced to a shadow of itself. In the 2000s, Pixar gave us Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Wall-E, Up, Oscar-winning films with emotional depth and mass appeal. By the mid-2020s, we got Lightyear, a soulless, overly complex origin story that bombed at the box office. And this year, Pixar just laid off hundreds of workers. The studio's own co-founder, Ed Catmull, warned Disney in the past not to meddle with its creative culture, but Disney didn't listen. Same story at Lucasfilm. After the backlash to The Rise of Skywalker and a long string of underperforming Star Wars spin-offs, confidence in the brand collapsed. The once mythical franchise became filler, and not the good kind. Executives began to worry, have we ruined the things people used to love? And the short answer, yes. You can trace this downward spiral back to one key decision, Bob Chapek. When Bob Iger retired in 2020, he handed over the reins to Chapek, a man known not for storytelling or creative leadership, but for merchandising. And what happened next was exactly what you'd expect when a theme park manager tries to run a storytelling empire. Budgets ballooned, creativity stalled, staff revolted. Iger would later admit that handing the company to Chapek was one of the biggest mistakes of his career. Internally, the company split into warring factions. Iger loyalists who believed in storytelling and talent relationships, and Chapek enforcers who pushed profit-first mandates like squeezing Disney Plus for. war. Short-term growth, slashing budgets, and demanding synergy above all else. According to former Disney insiders, some top-level creatives refused to take meetings with Chapek-era executives, and several projects were quietly shelved after receiving harsh internal feedback. So when Bob Iger rushed back in to save the company in 2022, it was already too late. He inherited a broken empire, a streaming service bleeding cash, an animation division in disarray, fractured relationships with top talent, and a brand reputation that had taken more hits than a Marvel stunt double. And guess what? The Avengers saw this collapse coming before the public did. They were on set. They saw the budget cuts. They heard the rumblings in the press junkets. They knew when the energy shifted from "we're making history" to "we're finishing contracts." Just listen to what Chris Hemsworth said about Thor: Ragnarok, a film that broke from the Marvel formula, and how it was the first time they got to be creative again.
By the time, say for Ragnarok, that was where we should have thought, now we can make it our own. People know I'm playing the character and they've bought into the idea and they're on board. And so then it became just about sort of putting your own creative stamp on it.
Translation: before that, it was a factory line. So what does a global megacorporation do when it realizes it's losing its grip? It consolidates, it cuts costs, and it tries to own more of the pipeline. Enter Hulu. Bob Iger made a big splash this year by announcing Disney had finally acquired full control of Hulu.
And this step is the first big step in the direction of turning this into a real growth business for the company. We were prepared, if necessary, to pay more for this.
But let's decode that corporate speak. They bought Hulu for one reason: to save Disney Plus. Because Disney Plus alone doesn't have enough general audience content to compete with Netflix or Amazon. Hulu gives them adult TV, broader programming, and a distraction from the fact that their core brands are failing. Think about it. When your business model depends on Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, and Disney princesses, and all of them are in decline, what else can you do? You throw everything into a bundle. You pray that people don't notice the quality drop, and you hope the stock price doesn't crater. Meanwhile, Apple, they've played the long game. For years, Apple was mocked for not having enough content to compete in streaming. But they didn't care. They were quietly building relationships. They made Coda and won the Oscar. They signed deals with A24. They launched prestige shows like Severance, Ted Lasso, and Foundation. They didn't need quantity. They needed credibility. And now, with the Avengers on their roster, they've achieved the one thing Disney used to own completely: cultural dominance. Because this new Apple mega franchise isn't just another superhero saga. It's a rebrand of blockbuster cinema, one built on freedom, not control, on collaboration, not exploitation, on creative rebirth, not contractual obligation. And the Avengers? They didn't abandon Disney out of spite. They did it because they finally had a choice. Now, if you're wondering how this is even possible, the answer is simple. Marvel is collapsing, and the talent is jumping off the ship. In the past 5 years, Marvel has gone from unstoppable box office dominator to a factory of critical flops and financial misfires. Since Avengers Endgame, Marvel has released 8 theatrical films, and only one, Spider-Man: No Way Home, which was co-produced by Sony, broke the billion-dollar mark. The rest either underperformed or were outright disasters. Take The Marvels, for example. Billed as the major crossover sequel to Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel, it tanked with a shocking $47 million domestic opening. That's the lowest debut in MCU history, a franchise that once considered $1 billion global earnings the baseline. But what's worse than the financial failure is the fan response. A growing segment of the Marvel fan base has checked out, not just because the content is bad, but because they no longer recognize what Marvel is. Once built on grounded, character-driven stories like Iron Man and the Winter Soldier, the MCU has now turned into what many describe as a Tumblr thread with CGI. There's no cohesion, no leadership, just a content mill designed to fill quotas, not tell stories. And guess what? The talent sees it too. That's why Apple's move is so deadly. Because it's not just about paying more, it's about offering something Disney can't anymore: creative control, consistency, and confidence. According to insider reports, Apple's deal gives the actors executive producer status on every project, final approval on scripts, ownership stakes in streaming performance, and perhaps most importantly, zero ideological oversight. And that might be the most underrated reason why talent is leaving Disney. And actors, they're not dumb. Chris Evans even once openly said he didn't like it.
If you would have to choose a theme song for the Avengers, maybe for the next movie, which one would you pick?
God, I don't like it.
You see, they've been front and center when fans start booing, and when critics start writing headlines like, "Has Marvel lost its magic?" They've seen how Disney promotes their projects, not with passion, but with checklist activism. The audience knows it. The actors know it, and now Apple knows it. This This is why Apple's offer hit like a lightning bolt. It's bold, but working. Scarlett Johansson, who famously sued Disney for breach of contract after Black Widow was dumped onto Disney Plus, was reportedly the first to sign. Chris Evans, long rumored to be open to returning to a non-Captain America role, is allegedly in advanced talks. And Robert Downey Jr., fresh off an Oscar win and armed with serious clout, now holds all the cards. This could spell disaster for Marvel Studios, because here's the uncomfortable truth. The brand isn't the draw anymore. The actors are. When Disney pushed Phase 4 without its core Avengers cast, fans didn't show up. Shang-Chi, Eternals, even Doctor Strange 2, all felt hollow without the characters fans grew up with. And now, if those characters, or at least those faces, show up on Apple TV Plus with better scripts, better stories, and no Disney baggage, game over. However, could Disney ever recover its lost glory? Let's find out. Why the Avengers deal is the final in Disney's coffin. There's a moment in every collapse when even the most loyal supporters stop believing. For Disney, that moment is now. They are about to learn this lesson in the most brutal way imaginable. Because Disney may still legally own the name Avengers, but they have lost the people who are the Avengers in the hearts and minds of billions. So what is their path forward? Recast? The very idea is a joke. Imagine the actor tasked with stepping into Robert Downey Jr.'s shoes. They wouldn't just be a replacement, they'd be a scab. A substitute teacher in a class that no longer wants to learn. It's a poison chalice of a role, doomed from the start. So, do they abandon the originals and focus on the new generation? That's exactly what led them to the historic box office implosion of The Marvels. The attempt to build the MCU around lesser-known characters without properly handing off the torch resulted in a franchise no longer grounded in legacy, and audiences felt it. You see, new characters are only compelling if the passing of the torch is earned, and that passing, it never happened. The original torchbearers were either killed off, written out, or unceremoniously dumped. There was no graceful goodbye, no final salute, just a disappearing act. Now, those original icons have simply walked away, taking the flame with them, and leaving Disney in the dark. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, as we know it, is on life support, and Apple is about to pull the plug. The so-called multiverse saga is a dead man walking. Marvel has been positioning Secret Wars as the next endgame, a massive multiversal crossover that brings back variants of beloved characters. But how can you build to Secret Wars when your most beloved characters are now legally obligated to another studio? You can't. Any attempt will feel like a hollow imitation. A cover band playing the hits while the real rock stars are headlining a sold-out stadium across town. Disney has been left with a roster of second-string characters and a story that just had its legs cut out from under it. But this collapse may be a very good thing, because in that collapse, a new universe is being born. Let's imagine what this Apple-backed universe could become. For the first time in over a decade, these actors are free. Free from PG-13 ratings, free from crossover quotas, free from the burden of carrying an increasingly bloated cinematic franchise, free to tell good stories. Robert has even admitted to having other interests, which confirms he desires to leave. He's also surprised by what Disney has become lately, calling it a multi-headed hydra.
I'll tell you the truth. I didn't expect it to become what it became. And it is this very large, multi-headed hydra at this point.
Imagine a version of Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, not the hero you knew, but a villain. Superior Iron Man, a dark R-rated psychological thriller where Stark isn't a savior, but a narcissistic genius bent on reshaping the world in his own image. A man corrupted by success. A performance that lets RDJ dive into the character's worst instincts. Something Disney would never allow. What about Chris Evans? Imagine a Logan-style epic, a gritty Western set in a dystopian future. A retired soldier with broken ideals, forced to pick up the shield one last time, not for glory, but for survival. A profound, character-driven story about legacy, regret, and redemption. Then there's Scarlett Johansson. Disney never gave her the standalone movie she deserved. Not until it was too late. Not until her character was already dead. But under Apple, she could lead a hard R spy thriller. Think Bourne Identity meets Atomic Blonde. A brutal, globe-trotting story about a woman trying to atone for the ghosts of her past. The red in her ledger finally explored with the seriousness it deserves. Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, nerfed, sidelined, and turned into a green professor under Marvel's direction. But with Apple money, those long-standing Universal distribution rights solved overnight. Now imagine a true horror film, a psychological drama where the Hulk is treated as a curse, not a punchline. The tragic story of a man slowly losing control, both mentally and physically. Equal parts Dr. Jekyll and the Fly. These are the stories that never could have existed under the Disney regime. Apple is giving them life. And here's the brutal truth. truth. Apple didn't just buy stars, they bought freedom. They bought the ability to create without corporate micromanagement, without algorithmic storytelling, without having to fit every plotline into a 10-year roadmap. They're betting that audiences are starved for mature, character-driven storytelling, that people want their heroes back, but differently, more grounded, more broken, more human. Apple is positioning itself as the anti-Disney, a bespoke tailor in a world of fast fashion factories. Disney, on the other hand, their path forward is bleak. Their most bankable asset just walked out the door, and with it, the last shreds of goodwill from an increasingly frustrated fan base. Bob Iger, once seen as the master empire builder, now risks becoming the emperor who let the kingdom fall. They'll try to recover, lean harder on the theme parks, milk Frozen and Encanto for all they're worth, maybe even reboot the Avengers with younger actors. But the lightning-in-a-bottle magic of the Infinity Saga cannot be replicated in a boardroom. It was a once-in-a-generation alignment of perfect casting, visionary direction, and actual patience. In their hubris, Disney believed they owned that lightning. They thought they could mass-produce it. They were wrong, because the lightning was never in the bottle. It was in the hands of the people holding it. And now, those people have taken their storm to a new coast. Meanwhile, Apple is already laying the groundwork for something massive. Insiders report that Apple Studios is building a cinematic ecosystem designed for serialized storytelling without the constraints of legacy IP. Think, multiple character-driven franchises, built from scratch with A-list talent, shared tone, not shared lore, prestige, not quantity. This is not another multiverse. It's a universe designed from the inside out, rooted in human drama first, spectacle second. Reports suggest Apple's new universe, internally nicknamed Project Reclamation, will center around a near-future world where failed heroes must reckon with unintended consequences of their power. Early concepts include a super soldier who walked away from his government after realizing he was a pawn, a hacker raised in a covert intelligence program, a genius inventor whose technology was weaponized without his consent. Sound familiar? These are spiritual successors, not Captain America, not Black Widow, not Iron Man, but close enough to capture the soul of what those characters were. And because they're new IPs, Apple owns them, outright. Disney can try to sue, but you can't copyright tone. You can't trademark emotion. You can't stop an audience from caring about the people behind the characters. When fans see Chris Evans on screen, they don't see Lucas Grant or whatever name he's given. They see Steve Rogers, the man who stood up to Thanos, the man who said, "I can do this all day." And that emotional imprint, it can't be undone. Apple understands this. Disney doesn't. And while Disney plays legal defense, Apple is already winning the cultural war. Because let's be honest, audiences are done with forced crossovers, CGI sludge, and 4-hour homework assignments before every movie. They want standalone stories, real stakes, performances that matter. And the Avengers cast, they're finally getting to deliver. This is a moment of creative revenge. The very people who built Disney's golden age were tossed aside, chewed up by the machine. Downey Jr. was denied Oscar consideration for Iron Man. Johansson was forced to sue for back-end pay. Evans was boxed into a one-note character arc for years. Now they're free to show the world what they can really do. And Disney, they're left with logos and lawsuits. The collapse of Marvel isn't the end of a genre, it's the end of an era. The end of the idea that one studio could monopolize creativity. The end of the myth that story takes a back seat to synergy. The MCU isn't dying because audiences hate superheroes. It's dying because audiences love authenticity. And authenticity just walked out the door. Apple knows this, and they're not just pulling the plug on Marvel. They're building the future. A future not forged by super soldier serum or billion-dollar budgets, but by the radical idea that storytellers matter more than spreadsheets. A new age is dawning, and this time it won't be Disney's name in the stars. It'll be Apple's, with a cast of legends, telling stories that matter. If you enjoyed watching this video, check out our other awesome videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Only half to Jeremy because I got ran over? Maybe that's why you want to pay me half?
That one line had fans cheering and Disney scrambling. Jeremy Renner clapped back hard after Disney allegedly tried to lowball him for Hawkeye Season 2, offering only half his original salary after a near-fatal accident that left him with 38 broken bones. And he didn't stop there. He said a whole lot more. Let's break it down. The savage sentence that shook Disney. Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over? With this single scathing question, Jeremy Renner Hawkeye to millions of Marvel fans worldwide delivered what many are calling a devastating blow to Disney, highlighting the callousness of one of the world's largest entertainment companies. In a shocking revelation during a May 2025 interview on the High Performance podcast, Renner disclosed that Disney had offered him half his original salary to reprise his role as Hawkeye for a Disney Plus series.
Asked me to do Season 2, and they offered me half the money. I'm like, wow, it's going to take me twice the amount of work to half the amount of money. And so 8 months of my time, essentially. And to do it for half. the amount.
What makes this offer particularly egregious is the timing. It came after Renner's near-fatal snowplow accident in January 2023, an event that left him with over 30 broken bones and a grueling recovery process. The implication behind Disney's offer seemed clear to Renner. His value had somehow diminished because of his...
Why? Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over? Maybe that's why you want to pay me half of what I made on the first season? I'm like, I don't get it. I'm like, go fly a kite.
The power of Renner's response lies not only in its directness, but in what it represents. A man who faced death, endured an excruciating recovery, and emerged with an unwavering sense of his worth. This wasn't just about money. It was about respect and recognition for an actor who has given over a decade of his career to building the Marvel Cinematic Universe as one of the original 6 Avengers. Renner emphasized that he wasn't seeking a raise, merely the same compensation he had received for the first season. I didn't ask for any more money, mind you, right? It's just pay me what I made the first season, he explained, highlighting the reasonableness of his position. The offer was particularly insulting, considering that the second season would require twice the amount of work and an 8-month commitment, all for half the pay.
I'm not going to go torture my body and risk permanent damage somewhere. Especially for half the money, it's going to, no. And more importantly, I said it's for my time.
Critically, Renner made a distinction between Disney's financial team and Marvel Studios in his criticism. This is not Marvel, mind you. This is like just Disney, not even really Disney. It's just the penny pinchers, the accountants, he stated, suggesting a disconnect between the creative and financial sides of the company. Disney has reportedly disputed Renner's claims, but without providing specific details about the negotiations. This lack of a detailed rebuttal has left room for speculation about the true nature of the offer and the reasoning behind it. The fallout from Renner's revelation has been significant. Fans have rallied behind the actor, with social media platforms buzzing with disappointment directed at Disney. Many have criticized the studio for undervaluing an original Avenger, particularly one who had recently survived a life-threatening accident. Comments highlighting sentiments like, "It's sad to see an OG Avenger treated like this," have been common, reflecting fans' loyalty to Renner and his portrayal of Hawkeye. Industry observers have noted that Marvel is attempting to reduce costs, which may be part of a larger trend in the entertainment industry, especially for streaming content. However, this cost-cutting approach has raised questions about the future of Hawkeye without its original lead and the potential impact on the broader MCU. Despite declining the current offer, Renner has expressed that he would be open to reprising the role if offered fair compensation. "I still love the character, I still love to do it, but I had to defend myself," he explained, indicating that the door is not entirely closed for his return to the MCU.
No, I still love the character. I still love to do it, but I had to defend myself. Do I have a right to say why? And, I don't care what's happening over there in your accounting department.
To fully appreciate the weight of Renner's savage sentence and why it resonated so powerfully, we need to understand the harrowing journey that brought him to this point, a near-death experience that forever changed his perspective on life, career, and personal worth. The accident that changed everything. January 1st, 2023, started as a typical New Year's Day for Jeremy Renner at his home near Lake Tahoe, Nevada. After days of heavy snowfall that Renner described as Snowmageddon, he was attempting to clear his driveway with his Piston Bully Snowcat, a 14,000-pound commercial vehicle typically used to groom ski slopes.
And the settings in Lake Tahoe, and it's New Year's, and we always have my family in New Year's, and we were snowed in for a few days. Sort of Armageddon, Snowmageddon, we called it, type of thing. So we had no power, and electricity, or nothing, and we were having a great time. But New Year's Day, it was gonna be sunny, so I had to clear the driveway so we can get out and get some fresh air and that type of thing.
What happened next would change his life forever. While helping his nephew Alex move vehicles that were stuck in the snow, the Snowcat began sliding on the icy slope toward his nephew. In an attempt to warn him, Renner stepped out of the cab. When the machine continued sliding, he made a split-second decision to try to re-enter the vehicle to stop it. In this heroic but devastating moment, Renner was caught under the massive machine. Skull cracked open, his eyeball came out, and he couldn't breathe properly due to his collapsed lung. Perhaps most remarkably, Renner remained conscious throughout the entire ordeal, fighting for each breath as he waited 45 minutes on the ice for emergency help to arrive. During this time, he made the conscious decision to focus solely on breathing, putting aside the shocking sight of his injuries. "I saw my eye, I'll worry about that later. I saw my twisted legs, I'll worry about that later," he recalled thinking in those critical moments. To survive, Renner relied on breathing techniques he had learned as a child when he accompanied his mother to Lamaze classes at the age of 11 or 12. These techniques, designed to help manage pain during childbirth, became crucial to his survival as he struggled with a collapsed lung and crushed ribcage. The severity of his condition was so extreme that Renner actually died briefly during the wait for help. The physical exertion of trying to breathe eventually exhausted him, and he momentarily lost consciousness before being revived. And then came back, and I was pissed about it. I saw my eyeball again. Oh my God, because it was so great. I'm like, oh, it's so great. I was having such a good time because I did sort of regulate breathing, and then it just started to slow. The heart rate started a little slow. After being airlifted from the scene, Renner spent time in the intensive care unit, ICU, receiving critical care. His recovery involved reconstructive surgeries, including metal plates in his ribcage and eye socket, and a titanium rod in his left shin. He was released from the hospital on January 17, 2023, and by March, he had regained enough strength to walk with a cane. The road to recovery was grueling and required immense determination. Renner set milestones for himself, often centered around his daughter Ava, such as being able to stand at her birthday party in March. These goals gave him purpose and helped him maintain a positive mindset. During the most challenging moments of his recovery, a significant motivator in Renner's recovery was his desire to heal his family, particularly his daughter and nephew, who were deeply affected by the accident. He felt that by getting better, he could alleviate their suffering and worry. These aren't characteristics that I typically do, and I felt terrible by it, and I knew I did do it. I forgave myself, and they're obviously not thinking like you ruined New Year's. It's just something that was in my body. By 2024, Renner had made remarkable progress and returned to filming Mayor of Kingstown for its third season, despite the physical challenges. His recovery journey became public as he shared updates on social media, showing his progress in physical therapy and his gradual return to mobility. The accident profoundly transformed Renner's outlook on life and career. In interviews, he has spoken about gaining a new perspective, focusing on simplicity, gratitude, and what truly matters. This shift in perspective has extended to his professional choices, with Renner becoming more selective about the projects he takes on and how they align with his values and well-being. So, one of the giant takeaways from the book, or me writing the book, was just cementing the idea that my oversimplification of life is how I live my life to recover. And I'm not changing it because life is just that simple. I am not going to overcomplicate it anymore. Even with his recovery progressing well, Renner continues to face physical challenges. He has explained that every joint is an issue and that he has numerous foreign objects in his body, leading to ongoing problems with inflammation. Despite these challenges, Renner maintains a positive attitude, focusing on his blessings rather than his limitations. When asked if he would trade his current self for the version of Jeremy Renner before the accident, he firmly declined, highlighting the profound personal growth he has experienced through his ordeal. The publication of his memoir, My Next Breath, on April 29, 2025, marks another significant step in Renner's journey. The book, which details his accident and recovery, offers insights into the experiences that have shaped his current perspective and priorities. It was against this backdrop of extraordinary recovery and newfound perspective that Disney approached Renner with their insult offer for Hawkeye Season 2. To fully understand the significance of this lowballed salary offer and Renner's powerful response, we need to appreciate the journey that brought him to the MCU in the first place, a career built on perseverance, talent, and resilience. From struggling actor to Avenger to advocate. Jeremy Renner's path to stardom wasn't an overnight success story, but rather a testament to persistence over nearly 2 decades. Born in 1971 in Modesto, California, Renner grew up in a modest, blue-collar family. After discovering his passion for acting in a drama class at Modesto Junior College, he moved to Hollywood to pursue his dream. His acting career began in 1995 with a minor role in National Lampoon's Senior Trip. The early years were marked by financial struggles and uncertainty, with Renner taking on various jobs including makeup artistry, sales, and even working as a river guide to support himself while building his acting resume through guest appearances on television shows. The early 2000s saw Renner gain traction with roles in independent films. A significant breakthrough came in 2002 when he portrayed serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer in the film Dahmer, earning a nomination for Best Lead Male at the Independent Spirit Awards. This performance showcased his versatility and talent, catching the attention of industry insiders. The true turning point in Renner's career came in 2009 with his role as Staff Sergeant William James in The Hurt Locker. Directed by Kathryn Bigelow, the film was critically acclaimed, and Renner's performance earned him his first Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. The following year, his role in The Town earned him a second Academy Award nomination, this time for Best Supporting Actor. His inclusion in the Hollywood Reporter's list of Hollywood's new A-list in 2010 marked his transition from a struggling actor to a recognized star. Trail of Hawkeye evolved through appearances in Avengers: Age of Ultron, 2015, Captain America: Civil War, 2016, and Avengers: Endgame, 2019, culminating in the Disney Plus series Hawkeye in 2021, where he co-starred with Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop. This series allowed for a deeper exploration of Clint Barton's character, showcasing Renner's range as an actor within the superhero genre. Hawkeye received positive reviews, earning a 92% positive score on Rotten Tomatoes and an 88% audience score, and was a success in streaming ratings. Despite his success, Renner's career has not been without controversies. In 2015, during the press tour for Avengers: Age of Ultron, Renner, alongside Chris Evans, referred to Scarlett Johansson's character Black Widow as a slut and complete in response to fan questions about character relationships. This led to significant backlash, with both actors issuing apologies, though Renner later doubled down on the comments in an appearance on Conan. In 2016, during a quanda, Renner admitted that he had wanted Hawkeye to die in the first Avengers film, stating, "I was just getting to know who Hawkeye was, and then zap. I go round like a zombie. I'm like Loki's minion." This suggested a degree of creative frustration with his role early on. Renner's personal life has also faced public scrutiny, particularly during his custody battle with ex-wife Sonny Pacheco over their daughter. In 2019, Pacheco alleged that Renner had threatened to kill her and himself, claims that Renner denied. The following year, he accused Pacheco of misusing funds from their daughter's trust fund, adding another public dimension to their dispute. Through these professional and personal challenges, Renner maintained his status as a respected actor. Then came the snowplow accident in 2023, which could have ended his career, but instead became a profound turning point in both his personal life and professional approach. The accident and subsequent recovery gave Renner a new perspective on fame. In interviews, he has noted that people now see him differently, recognizing him for his resilience rather than just his roles. This shift has made public interactions more genuine and less focused on his celebrity status. His recovery journey has also changed how he approaches his career. Renner has become more intentional with his time and energy, prioritizing projects that align with his values and allow him to maintain his health and spend time with his family. This intentionality extends to his work on Mayor of Kingstown, which he approached not just as a job, but as part of his recovery journey. Rather than viewing filming as taking time away from his personal life, he integrated it into his healing process. It was with this evolved perspective that Renner faced Disney's offer for Hawkeye Season 2. The reduced salary proposal wasn't just a business negotiation, it was a valuation of his worth that felt at odds with his journey and contributions. His savage sentence questioning whether Disney thought he was only half the Jeremy because of his accident cut to the heart of this disconnect. In many ways, this controversy exemplifies the complexities of navigating a career in Hollywood, where artistic passion, financial considerations, physical demands, and personal values often intersect in challenging ways. Renner's response to Disney's offer provides a glimpse into how these complexities are magnified when an individual has experienced a life-altering trauma. The impact of Renner's stance extends beyond his individual situation, potentially influencing how other actors approach negotiations with major studios. By publicly discussing what he perceived as an insult offer, Renner has drawn attention to the power dynamics between talent and studios, particularly when it comes to compensation for streaming content. This dispute comes at a time when the entertainment industry is undergoing significant changes, with streaming platforms altering traditional compensation models and studios reassessing budgets in response to evolving audience habits. As reported by Business Insider, these shifts have led to tensions between talent and studios, as evidenced by Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit against Disney over the simultaneous release of Black Widow on Disney Plus and in theaters. For fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the dispute raises questions about the future of Hawkeye as a character. While Renner has expressed willingness to return to the role under the right conditions, the current impasse suggests that we may not see him donning the bow and arrow again in the near future. This uncertainty extends to other potential MCU projects that might have included Hawkeye, such as the upcoming Avengers Doomsday, set for release in May 2026. Beyond the immediate implications for Renner's career and Hawkeye as a series, this controversy has sparked discussions about the value placed on experience, talent, and recovery in Hollywood. The suggestion that an actor's worth might be diminished due to injuries sustained in a life-threatening accident has struck a chord with many, highlighting concerns about ageism, ableism, and respect for performers who have given years to building franchises. The power of Renner's savage sentence lies not just in its criticism of Disney's offer, but in what it represents. A man who faced death, fought through an excruciating recovery, and emerged with a clearer sense of his worth and values. His refusal to accept what he perceived as an undervaluation of his contributions and capacity speaks to broader themes of self-respect, resilience, and the courage to stand up for oneself in the face of powerful institutions. Ultimately, whether or not Renner returns as Hawkeye, his impact on the character and the MCU is undeniable. His portrayal of Clint Barton has contributed significantly to the success of the Avengers franchise and resonated with audiences worldwide. The dispute with Disney, while potentially closing a chapter in his Marvel journey, is just one part of a career and life story defined by perseverance, talent, and an unwavering commitment to personal integrity. The savage sentence that ended Disney represents a profound affirmation of self-worth from an actor who has literally fought his way back from the brink of death. In standing up for himself, Renner has perhaps inspired others to recognize and assert their own value, both within the entertainment industry and beyond. If you love this video, click on the card showing on your screen for more videos like this.